If we had to put the blame on a single person, you would have to be the man responsible for both Dota and League of Legends. Do you have anything to say for yourself?
Alright, this video is going to need a bit of an explanation. Earlier this year, I made a documentary on one of my favorite professional players in League of Legends history, the top laner Khan, who had a career I found to be beautifully poetic. Khan's career was so interesting to me because it was very similar to the sorts of experiences that we all have when playing MOBA games like League of Legends, which is to say, it was filled with lots of fun, but lots of frustration. Fun mixed with frustration is how I would define the MOBA genre, and I thought it was funny how even the best of the best professional players cannot escape the polarizing emotion that we all have to deal with when playing these sorts of games. I wanted to draw this parallel in the documentary and spend some time talking about what it was that made the MOBA genre so captivating. So during production, I spent a lot of time researching and learning about the history of League of Legends, as well as the history of Dota and the history of all MOBAs, going all the way back to Eon of Strife, the first MOBA mod created in StarCraft in 2001. But as I went down this rabbit hole, every new fact I learned was so interesting it could be a video on its own. So much of this genre's story and history is unbelievable. I am shocked more people don't know about it. People don't know the first MOBA game ever was made by a bored teenager living on the island of Guam who created the next video game genre that would take over the world in his free time after high school. People don't know one of the earliest designers of DotA Allstars, Steve Guinsoo Feak, who is largely credited as being the guy who invented most of the staples of the MOBA genre, is also the guy who kind of invented League, being one of the first designers Riot hired to lead them to build the game we've all come to love and hate. A lot of this history is made even more interesting with how mysterious it is too, as most of these figures have kind of just vanished off the face of the earth and haven't given any sort of public appearance in a really long time. I think the last interview Guinsoo gave was 10 years ago at WCG 2010. So anyway, that is partially why the Khan documentary ended up getting split into two videos, as I released a sort of prequel talking about all of this interesting history I had learned and uncovered, feeling like I couldn't help but share it all. But while I was working on both of these videos, something really interesting happened. I was reached out to by a company who were working on a new MOBA title, a new video game that they wanted to do some sort of partnership, seeing if I could help them promote, which this is nothing new to YouTubers. YouTubers get reached out to all the time with partnerships and sponsorship opportunities like this, but this offer was a little bit strange. The company was Hidden Leaf Games, who were working on a new MOBA titled Fangs, and they didn't want me to do a 90-second pre-roll on one of my documentaries. They didn't want me to just play the game and turn that into some sort of video. They wanted to pay me to fly out to Los Angeles and sit down and interview the lead developer working on creating their game, because the lead developer for Fangs is none other than Steve Guinsoo Feak. I guess inventing League of Legends and Dota wasn't enough for him. He is back once again to take another 10 years off our lives. Anyway, the instant they offered that opportunity, I said yes and got on the next flight to LA.
So all of this started in 2004. You were attending University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, and you started playing a custom map that was pretty buggy and thought you might be able to improve upon.
Yeah. Although very close. I think it was actually a little bit before when I was at Platteville, and then I transferred to Milwaukee. But yes, and it was my friends and I, I'd be going at school during the week. Platteville was kind of known as like a suitcase school. Everybody would leave on the weekends because there's nothing to do there. It was like this farm city. There was like literally half old people, elderly, and half like college students, and the most thing to do there was like a movie theater. So yeah, I would go home every weekend. Me and my friends, we would have like LAN parties, play games, and Dota was one of the ones that, we had kind of gotten into for a while, and then we were playing and I was like, this sucks. Why don't they just fix this? And then I just, I wondered, just see if I could fix that. And then sure enough, I could. And then so, yeah, it was just kind of away from there.
Can you describe what the game was like at the time you started playing it? I mean, as is my understanding, you made a lot of the seminal changes that kind of defined the MOBA genre. So what was it like? What was the game structure before you got your hands on it?
So there were different iterations of Dota, right? Back to the original from Ewell, Dota on Warcraft Vanilla was actually a pretty impressive, like, engineering type accomplishment. The stuff they had to do to make the abilities that did work was really impressive. Once TF2 was released, the map editor was better, and so more people could get in and start making maps. So Allstars, kind of when I came in, it was, as it sounds, it was an Allstars map, so they had kind of taken a bunch of heroes from different maps and just kind of pasted them in. So it was super cool and exciting. There were characters that were kind of known quality heroes from other games that had kind of just been pasted in. And so it was really exciting, but it was really unbalanced because the characters weren't really meant to be in the same map together as they were, right? Like, so some characters leveled to 10, some characters leveled to 15. Like, they didn't even have like the same curves and things. And so like, yeah, it was an awesome, fun experience, but it was also kind of a mess, you know, if that makes sense.
Back when you got your hands on the game, it was still a little bit of a clusterfuck of minions all over the place, and more about the PvE that Eon of Strife originally was with StarCraft, and then you kind of tweaked it a bit to be a bit more PvP, focusing on heroes fighting each other. You added a boss monster named after your bowling ball, and a number of other additions like that. Did you have any sort of vision that what you just knew instinctively, like this would be a little bit more intriguing to play, having a bit more of a PvP experience like that?
Kind of. For me, it was all just sort of like problem solving, right? It's like, change it to how I want to play it, how I think it would be fun, right? Like I was playing a ton out of the map. I played, you know, dozens, maybe not dozens per weekend, but, you know, a dozen games a weekend or whatever. And so, in my opinion at the time, I was like, wow, this is great, but it could be so much better if X, Y, Z, and A. You know, killing minions is fun, but killing players is more fun. I kind of took some of my experiences from other games, and I did a lot of copy pasting, right? So like, you know, one of the first things I added was like the kill call outs, right? Like double kill, triple kill, killing streak, on fire, holy crap, kill this guy. And you know, that was like, it's not gameplay at all, right? It's just fun. But like looking back, I think that was one of the most important features, right? Because it was exciting, it was energetic, it was, you know, it really made you feel something when you were playing. Like if a guy in the enemy team was on a big killing streak, you really wanted to kill that guy. You know, partially because you got a little extra rewards, but also because, you know, he's the best right now and you want to dethrone the best. That's just like the competitive instinct. And so that was like not an important gameplay change, but I think a pretty important change, you know, addition to DotA to kind of help it take off, make it more popular. And then yeah, like the item combination system, the epic monster. You know, again, yeah, those were kind of just similar, just going down a logic path. What does the game need? Let's figure out a way to make that happen, iterate on it a little bit, and then away we go.
So it sounds like it kind of started off as a bit of a hobby for you, but it turned into a pretty huge career. Can you tell me a bit about the path that you took from your first instinct to start messing around with the game yourself and the career that developed from that?
I would definitely say that, you know, my intention was like, I wasn't planning to make that a career, or like I was really just like, hey, I'm making this game. I was, you know, going to college at the time. I figured I was going to be an engineer. That's what I ended up going to. Well, went to school first for engineering, and then I switched to computer science. So I figured that, you know, I was going to end up being like an engineer, probably not a game engineer, but, you know, probably just a whatever programmer somewhere, where I could get a good job. But so I did DotA, for about a year and a half. I took a break for a while, partially because I was getting a little burnt out, and partially because I was not doing so well in school. I had failed one of my classes, which was bad. And so it had been a few months or something, and I was taking some time off from DotA, and then Mark reached out to me. First he emailed me. I didn't see it right away. I eventually got back to him, and he called me. It was in the morning, maybe early afternoon or something, and I was just kind of waking up, so I was like, hold on a minute, and then I went downstairs, I started eating breakfast, and I completely forgot about it. I just left him sitting there on the phone for like 45 minutes, and I didn't mean to or anything. I was waking up, I forgot. 45 minutes later or something, and I went back there, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and he was still there, he was like waiting, and it turned out to be a really good culture fit, you know, really good, you know, opportunity, good fit between me and the Riot team at that time. Which was small, but definitely there. So
Can you tell me a bit about those early days at Riot? Of course, there's that meme that Riot was just a small indie company at the time that seems laughable at the behemoth they've since become, but it was very much a bit of a shoestring budget and
it was
nightmare to develop League in those early years.
Yeah, it was. So when I first started, they showed me kind of the prototype they had in progress, and I thought it was a joke. Like, I thought they were showing me like an old Super Nintendo game or something. But it was early, and they've been focusing more on the gameplay because that was the more important part. And essentially developing our own engine from scratch was not easy. But yeah, absolutely, Riot was a tiny little indie dev studio. A lot of the typical stuff, people kind of wearing a lot of different hats, figuring out whatever needs to get done to make the next patch or whatever. Yeah, we were pretty small for a while. I don't think we had 50 employees, close to launch or something.
So a lot of people might have heard your name before, but not entirely known where it's come from. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about where people may have heard the name Guinsoo before?
Yeah, so on League of Legends, there's an item, Guinsoo's Rage Blade. That was, of course, named after me. And the name is, pretty accurate. There was a playtest with a new character. I didn't know what to build. I was a little grumpy about it. It was this newfangled AP/AD character that I didn't know what to build. It was quirky. And I was like mad. I was like, there's no items for this character. This is so dumb. And then I think it was Tom Cadwell just told me, he was like, well, make one then. I was like, okay, I will. And then so that was Guinsoo's Rage Blade.
How long were you at Riot, and at what point did you feel like your work had been accomplished?
Boy, I'd actually have to check the number. I want to say around 8 years, I think, in total. From the very early development days to some years post-launch. It was kind of a combination of things. I had kids, so I started a family, and there was also an element of a new challenge, right? It was time for a new challenge in life. League had come a very long way. Super proud of it, but maybe time to try my hand at something new, I guess.
So it's been a while now since you've worked at Riot and worked on League of Legends, and there have been these two seminal games that you've had a huge hand in creating, and since then it's been radio silence. But you're back with another game. Are you excited to be stepping back into the arena?
Yeah, I am. I mean, like you said, it has been a while. That is, very true. Maybe the way I look at it is, I work hard for a while, and then I take some time to relax and recharge, and then I work hard for a while again. And yeah, I'm super excited about Fangs. I think the customizability and just sort of the mix and match nature almost of the gameplay, and how it can change so much from round to round, even within a single game. It's gameplay that it's right up my alley. I love it, and I think people are gonna love it too.
A lot of people watching probably haven't heard of Fangs, haven't seen any gameplay. Can you describe a bit about what the game's like, what the experience is like, and how it might differ from the League and Dota that they know?
Love to, yeah. So on Fangs, kind of what we're focusing on, we want to really distill the MOBA experience down. Faster game length is important. Focusing on what we think are the most fun parts about MOBAs. So the team fights, the PvP, the outplays, the carrying, those types of things. All abilities are skill shots. So you have to aim everything. You don't get to kind of left click and lock to attack or any abilities like that. The arena is smaller. There's no minions to sort of dance around, no towers even. And so it's all you get in there and brawl.
The MOBA genre has been pretty synonymous with the word frustration, in my experience at least, and I think a lot of people feel pretty frustrated when they play these games, and it's my belief at least that that's part of the experience. You have to have some pretty low lows or some frustrating moments to have a drive to get better, have a drive to queue up again and want to continue playing.
I think you're absolutely right, and you think about League, for example, you can't have a bunch of frustrating experiences, but then you have that one game where you just carry and you kill everybody, right? You're just dominating. It feels so good, right? And so there's the two extremes that you experience, right? That elation, and then that I want to get back in there, right? Because there's a million and a half things you could have done differently at any game you lost. Like, oh, I should have built this item, or oh man, I should have went mid lane at this point in time. That frustration because you lost, but knowing that you're always kind of learning and you're a better player after each game, that is one of the big things I think that, like you're saying, that brings people back. So in Fangs, we're definitely trying to have a little bit of that experience, but we're trying to package it into a more rapid experience. So you don't have to experience getting destroyed or getting carried on for as long periods of time. So there are different rounds, right? Each match is a best of 5, and you win 3 rounds to win. So if round 1 goes badly, you can completely change up your strategy, try something new, and there's still lots of opportunities to change the game, right? To turn it around, to still win if things start very badly. And so there's a lot of agency for players in terms of changing their builds, right? To counter what other people are doing, to fill in a missing role for their team, or to get those highs and lows, especially in even a single game, but without having to sort of like play through a 45-minute match or a 30-minute match to get to the next opportunity to be on like even ground to where they can really even fight back.
One of your biggest contributions to this genre is the idea of being able to customize your playstyle. When you first took over Dota, many items were pretty simple and most characters had an easy build path that you would go down for every game, and you were the one that came up with the idea of adding item trees and so many items that players would have to choose what they wanted to do in game. Do you have any other ideas that you're exploring about how you customize your play style in game to be as unique as you are as a player?
Yes. So that's a big part of what the augment system is about in Fangs. And I do think that is a very important feature for players. So each character has a full set of augments that are specific to them, that change their abilities in anywhere from kind of minor ways, just like adding an effect or more damage or something, to extremely big changes to the ability. Some characters you can change their abilities from, being like maybe they're an assassin or a mage, and all of a sudden now they're healing. And it's very important for us balance-wise that each character has a number of different viable options and they're distinct. A League of Legends example might be you're playing Lux, for example, right? You decide halfway through the game, gosh, Lux just kind of isn't working for my team. I wish I'd picked Annie instead, or Zyra, or Lulu, right? But in Fangs, with the degree that the builds can actually change your character, you can effectively switch from I'm playing Lux to now I'm playing Zyra, or now I'm playing Soraka. And the system is important both for sort of allowing people to customize how they want to play their characters, like items in League. And it's also important that you can respond to what the enemies are doing, right? If they have lots of healing, I can equip some anti-healing. If they have lots of tanks, I can equip some anti-tanks. And you can change them every round. So, if round 1 doesn't work, I can change it, right? So this is again back to, not just getting snowballed on for 45 minutes straight, and every round, literally, you can just either change your strategy, change your tactics, or simply just start executing better and outplay the opponents and win that way.
So there have been a few games in the past that have tried to distill MOBAs down to a shorter experience. Bloodline Champions and Battle Riot are possibly the biggest example, but they haven't quite hit a huge stride of popularity. Is there something that a lot of people miss with the MOBA experience that has led to other of the copycats that are League or Dota failing, that you feel like you're working hard to make sure you include in Fangs?
Yes. So I think Bloodline Champions and Battle Riot, I think, are both very good examples. And I think both those games did do a number of things well. I think they also had some pretty acute failings or errors or, kind of mistakes that they made. And so what we're trying to do is sort of take the best elements from those, the elements that we really like, the things that we think they did really well, and kind of marry them with the successful aspects from Dota, League, a little bit of World of Warcraft battlegrounds and arenas maybe, and pick all get all the things that we think are successful, wrap it up in a bundle, and compared to, for example, Battle Riot. I don't want to fixate on the things they did wrong, but don't make the same mistakes they did. Pick the things that they did well and not the things that they didn't do so well.
So you have accomplished quite a bit in your career as a game designer, and honestly, it's a bit of an exciting thing for me being able to interview you. But do you feel as though you've accomplished so much? Do you feel like you're a big hotshot with how much you've done in influencing all of our childhoods, or is this something that just feels like it could have happened to anyone, and it just so happened to be you?
Oh yeah, I don't. What was the phrase you used? Hot shot? No, I don't feel like that. So, I mean, Dota and League were made by lots of people. I could have never done it by myself. And, I got very lucky. I've been very fortunate in my life. So, I don't feel really like I've, done anything special or anything like that. So, it was interesting hearing you phrase it that way about people's childhoods and stuff.
Why do you do it? You've been stepping into this arena for so long now, and for someone having such a huge influence in these games, I would imagine that you'd be a millionaire retired on a beach, but you're still making games. What drives you to keep on working on them?
Pretty much just like I mentioned earlier, making games that I want to play, a little bit of, the old, it's Gandhi, right? Be the change you want to see in the world, right? If the game that I want to play doesn't exist, make that game.
So to sign us off, do you want to say anything about why people should play Fangs? Why people should continue playing your games that have caused so much agony over the years for so many of us?
Much agony, but hopefully also some really good memories and some really good times. Yeah, I think Fangs, it's a lot of fun. It does a lot of the things that, for me as a now, let's say, aging father, I just, with 3 kids, I don't often have like an hour and a half or an hour to dedicate to games. So it's important for me to get, to have a game that I can play in like 20 minutes or so. But I still really want to scratch that like MOBA itch a lot of the times. And so, yeah, I think Fangs is, I think it's going to be awesome. I think it gets a lot of the tactical and strategic elements of like the quote big MOBAs. Takes all the good features and it kind of wraps it up into a shorter, more distilled, more thick package.
Yeah, honestly, that's a perfect night.